Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm continuing my review of the original Twilight Zone series, TV series. As always, you can find all episodes of my show, along with links to where to listen to it, and social media and ways to support the show at the website, which is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. Also, support is always appreciated but never expected. And again, those links can be found at that website. Also, please check out the episode description for links to friends of the show. You will always find links to Jen, the Arcane Observer, her channel, as well as to Trouble Minds, Michael Strange, and Trouble Minds Radio, both the show and the station, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of my shows and all 24/7. There we go. Shows from many other amazing people. And so yeah, I think that takes care of the usual introduction here. We are in the middle. Well, not in the middle. We're still in the beginning of season 3 of the Twilight Zone, and we are on episode 5. There's a 6. 5. There we go. Of season 3. This one is called A Game of Pool. And so this is about a pool shark, Jesse Cardiff, and he stays after hours practicing at this pool hall in Chicago. And he feels like he should be considered the greatest pool player of all time, and would have been if it wasn't for the memory of James Howard Fats, is his nickname, Brown, who died 16 years earlier, who is still somehow overshadowing him. And Jesse says he'd give anything to play one game against Brown. And Brown comes from up from a pool table somewhere in the afterlife and appears in the room with Cardiff, with Jesse, and offers to play against Jesse for a wager. For a wager. If Jesse wins, he will be acknowledged as the greatest pool player ever. And if he loses, he forfeits his life. And after some discussion back and forth between the two of them, Jesse accepts. So as the game goes on, Jesse is telling Brown about how he should be how he got tired of hearing everyone talk about Brown and how good Brown was, and how Jesse would never be the best because Brown would always be the best. And he says that when Jesse was 15, excuse me, he came to the pool hall and won his first game. And the owner has let him practice there ever since after working hours, even at the expense of Jesse having any kind of social life and never going anywhere else to the movies or to dating out to dates or anything. And Brown is sad to hear all this, because he says that he himself, when he was alive, he lived a full life in addition to becoming a great pool player. And Jesse ignores Brown just because he thinks that Brown is trying to distract him. And they get to near the end of the game, to where there's one pool ball left on the table, and both men needing to sink it in order to win the game. Brown misses his shot on purpose, and he warns Jesse that if he wins, he may get more than he bargained bargains for than he thinks he's going to get in the game. And of course, Jesse sinks the ball and wins the game. And Brown thanks Jesse for winning the game. And Jesse thinks that Brown is being a sore loser, but Brown disappears. And Jesse goes about his life and many years of playing pool and being known as the best. And eventually he does pass on. But at one point, he's in the afterlife, and he's sort of woken up from it to go to another pool hall in Ohio to play against a challenger. And it turns out that the price for being the greatest pool player ever, and the idea on the show is the show kind of gives is that the price for being the greatest of anything is that whenever anyone else challenges this, Jesse now has to show up and prove that this challenger, and eventually it's a series of challengers, are still not as good as him. And so he's stuck in doing this until someone beats him in this game. Meanwhile, Brown has gone fishing in the afterlife because now he's not the best anymore, and so he doesn't have to play the same game endlessly against a string of challengers. So a lot of this in the show, it's done really well within the conversation between the two players, and just the talking about their lives. And there's a lot more to it than I can explain easily in just this kind of summary here. But you get the idea that, again, Jesse his whole life was about pool. And now his whole afterlife is going to be about pool until someone can beat him at his own game. So, and now, again, the man previously known as the best in pool can relax and do what he wants to because he's not the best anymore. So, again, it's very well done, and it's a lot more interesting to watch the show and get the story than sort of having me tell it to you in a way. But also, it does connect to this idea of what happens. What do we do if there is some kind of afterlife? What do we do there? And this is, I think, just sort of one interpretation of that. And who knows how it really goes. But it was also neat to listen to that show because not so much the actors. I mean, they were great actors, but there's many people in my family that used to play pool a lot when I was a kid. So it was kind of neat to hear those sounds again. Brought back memories of hearing all those sounds of the sounds you hear when people are playing pool. Brought back memories of hearing those sounds as a kid, and even watching sometimes. Excuse me, as family would play pool. So neat show there. So I can move on to the next one here. And once I find my spot, and the next episode is called The Mirror. And this is episode 6 of season 3 of the Twilight Zone here. And this is it's about a man named Ramos Clemente, who was a year ago a beardless, nameless worker who was basically working for someone else, and he ended up taking control of a country in South America somewhere, and a dictatorship, which was a dictatorship before he rose to power, and is now one under him. And he has 4 friends that helped him take over, and they staged a successful revolution against the former dictator, General Cruz. So, or De Cruz. So eventually, Clemente has De Cruz brought to his new base, and the deposed general tells Clemente that pretty soon he'll figure out or realize or see the consequences of ruling by force, and that De Cruz's mirror, which of course now Clemente has, along with everything else that used to belong to De Cruz, has the ability to reveal enemies in its reflection. Of course, Clemente doesn't believe any of this, and orders De Cruz to be imprisoned. And but he looks at the mirror after De Cruz is gone, and as he's in this mansion with all kinds of people outside, sort of celebrating, but also wanting to know what's next, Clemente starts using some of the same tactics as De Cruz. And his friends, who are now heads of the government, start to drift away from him, start to start to notice this, and they don't agree with it. Excuse me. And when he sees, when Clemente looks into the mirror, he sees images implying that all 4 of his friends are plotting to kill him, to assassinate him. And Clemente thinks that it's revealing their true thoughts and accuses them of this. And so over time, there's also these 4 friends. The biggest point of contention between them and Clemente is that Clemente has ordered these mass executions of prisoners that he has declared to be enemies of the state. And so when one of his 4 friends reproaches Clemente for doing this, Clemente throws him off a balcony to his death. Again, because he suspects, and he looks in the mirror and sees this one friend approaching with either a gun or a knife. I didn't really see clearly. I do glance at the show sometimes here and there. But, and so now he's down to 3 friends. Later on, after 2 friends, he tells 2 friends to go to the prison to oversee the executions because, again, he doesn't trust them anymore, and so he wants to be only around people he trusts. And again, there's no one. There's less and less people here as we're going. And then after they're gone, he secretly orders his guards to kill them as well. So now he's down. It's just Clemente and one other friend. And again, Clemente has been looking at this mirror and seeing all these what he thinks are the thoughts and intentions of everyone around him. And so near the end of this episode here, a priest shows up and asks him to end the executions. And Clemente refuses, saying that as long as he has enemies, the executions will continue. Eventually, though, after the priest continues talking with him and trying to convince him how wrong everything is, he tells the priest that he can't find any comfort in the priest's responses, that that he's doing I messed up. He the priest tells Clemente that all tyrants have but one real enemy, which is themselves, but they never recognize it until it's too late. And Clemente doesn't believe this, and meanwhile he has his last friend killed. He kills him himself, and in the end, while talking with the priest, when he looks in the mirror, all he sees is himself, not the priest. And so he takes a pistol and throws it at the mirror and breaks it. And so the priest, who has been sent outside the office at this point, hears the breaking glass and then another gunshot. He rushes into the office and finds Clemente dead because of the gun going off when it hit the mirror the wrong way. And the priest, of course, to himself says, the last assassin, they never learn. They never seem to learn. And that's the end of that episode. So it's very well done, and it plays with this idea of mirrors. And of course, I've done shows on that before over on Troubled Minds. I don't remember if I've done a show here on that yet, as far as just on mirrors. If I haven't, maybe it's time to revisit that at some point soon. But yeah, it's amazing how mirrors play so much in fiction and also just in experiences people have with seeing things that not necessarily so much the way the show describes here, but more as in seeing apparitions of other figures, seeing, in some rare cases, seeing rooms look like they're different than they actually are. Even in more rare cases, seeing other locations through the mirror. They do seem to be, there seems to be some connection between mirrors and energy and possibly consciousness and this ability that apparently some, whether it's spirits or other entities or whatever, they have to use mirrors to either travel through or to show themselves through. All these different things that have been reported over time. And I've had a few experiences with mirrors over the years, not too many, but just a couple. Since we have like 5 or 6 minutes left here, I think I'll just go over those because I don't really want to start another episode or reviewing another episode here in this limited time. But I have my bathroom mirror is a relatively new one overall, and it's just one of those cabinets with the lights built into it and the sliding glass mirror doors that are the doors for the medicine cabinet that's behind it. And every once in a while, this only happened like once that I'm really sure of, but maybe a couple other times as well. When I go in there to use the bathroom or whatever, no, it's always at night. I'll get a feeling like I don't want to look into the mirror. I don't know why. I don't know if it's someone there. I never get a clear sense of what is going on, but every once in a while, I'll get that feeling of not wanting to look in the mirror. And so there's something to it. Also, I've been in places before where mirrors are facing each other. And I don't know how often any of you out there have been in places like that, especially with like older mirrors that face each other. That's a weird feeling. I actually experienced that many years ago before I even started looking into anything paranormal, and a few times, and I did not like that. It wasn't even so much that I was looking in the mirrors as I was passing them. It was just a weird feeling that I got. So, and again, like I said, I've shared a few accounts from other people over the years on the show of people who have dealt with mirrors and had weird experiences with them. There does seem to be something in reflections. It doesn't have to necessarily be a mirror, but windows or just even one account that I shared on the show a year or two ago, where someone was in their house and they were laying in bed and they had an empty fish tank, and they happened to just wake up and be looking through it or looking at it, and they could see a figure of an old woman in the hallway outside their room. And so they sat up, and when they sat up, they didn't see anything in the hallway. But when they lay back down again, to where they were looking at the hallway through the two sides of this tank, this fish tank that was empty, they could see this apparition. So it is really, really wild how that works. I don't know, but it does. There's enough experience with it as well. So, but yeah. So that's that episode there. We'll continue with these reviews. These shows don't come out right when I record them. So for anyone that listens to these live, thank you for being here and sort of dealing with hearing it live once and then hearing it recorded several episodes later. I have changed my recording schedule a bit and my release schedule a little bit, just because of my eyes changing as they've been changing. So for anyone who likes to listen to shows live, I do record on Discord live every Monday and Saturday now at 10 p.m. Eastern. And on Mondays, I record my solo shows. That's usually the experiences shows, and then these review shows when I can. And then on Saturdays are the topic-based shows where I record with Jen, the Arcane Observer. And so I record on those days, Mondays and Saturdays. And the plan now is to release shows every Friday through Sunday. So usually there'll be 3 shows per week. Maybe more once in a while when I have the extra shows saved up. But there'll be at least, hopefully, always 3 shows per week from now on. Of course, that can change and as needed, but hopefully it won't change for quite a while. Also, I have decided for anyone who hasn't signed up for the Patreon yet, but you've been thinking about it, I do have some good news. I will be doing the Trick or Treat show every week from now on, starting this weekend, the first weekend of May. So, and that will be that is in response to a request for more interactive shows, and so every Saturday we'll do our usual show for the main feed with Jen, the Arcane Observer, and then there'll be a second show after that, which will be the Trick or Treat show. That's anything you want to talk about as far as paranormal, which is the trick, or food, which is the treat part of the show. And within reason, of course, we don't want to ever go too dark or too gory or whatever with any details. But yeah, so that's the plan from now on. Thank you all for being here, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.